I put my dad in the street against a heavyweight.
I've gone back to the dad. I've punched him a few more times.
5 blokes outside my front door. Can you come and help
One
me?
hell of a fucking story, so stay tuned.
This is Joe Pugh for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Delighted to be joined here just outside the O2, but floating on the River Thames by Savage. Dan, how are you, Dan?
I'm good. I'm not usually good on boats, but I've got this little thing apparently is keeping me balanced, so I'm okay.
I think there's a few people on there that are kind of uneasy on the boat, but it's something different for a big occasion. It marks the start of a momentous fight week. It's Claressa Shields versus Savannah Marshall. It starts here, it starts now. A historical night that we're about to see at the stadium just behind us, the O2. It's going to be big, isn't it, Dan?
Mate, it's going to be absolutely huge. I've never seen an open workout on a boat. I've never seen an all-women's boxing card. We get to see them both in the same week. It's huge, man. This is a 10-year rivalry. And I would say the first genuine, or definitely the biggest genuine women's boxing rivalry. You know, this stems from the amateur days, where the only blemish on Claressa Shields' boxing record, is Savannah Marshall. You know, you could tell that she's hungry. She wants it. Both fighters look in ridiculous shape. Just needle. You know, every time they walk past each other, there's a comment, there's an argument, there's something. It's real, you know, and I feel like it's gonna push women's boxing on leaps and bounds.
Off camera, you just comment on how strong, how fit Claressa looks. What difference can you see in her, and how do you think she's going to take this fight differently?
Well, just absolute definition, you know. Like I feel like she was here. She fought in Cardiff. She didn't look like that when she fought in Cardiff. She looks ready. She looks prepped. Mentally, she looks strong as ever. Because she knows, you know, she has to be. This is, for both of them, the hardest fights of their career, the defining fight of their career as well. They've kind of been, you know, glued to each other throughout their careers. That is the fight everyone talks about, regardless of who they've fought. So they both need to be firing on all cylinders to beat each other. You know, I don't think 95% will do for either of them. You've got to be absolutely at the races to win. Proper clash of styles as well, because you'd expect Savannah to perhaps win by stoppage if she is to win. And then if it does go the distance, you would probably favour the more pure boxing of Claressa Shields. That's certainly what the bookies look like anyway. So it's an interesting one, man. It's a proper fight.
You mentioned the styles there, and kind of everyone in the boxing world is saying that it's probably going to be the knockout artist versus the pure boxer. Do you think it is as simple as that, or do you think Claressa could kind of put the heat on?
No, I don't think it's definitely not as simple as that, because Claressa can put the pressure on, and Savannah can box as well. It's just like that is what they're best known for. You know, Savannah's known for being the biggest puncher in women's boxing, and Claressa's probably known for being the smoothest and best boxer in women's boxing. So you'd assume that they would play to their strengths, but maybe not. You know, I'm hearing whispers that Claressa's going to come out and try and, you know, impose herself on Savannah. Savannah's obviously a far more superior boxer than anyone gives her credit for, but does it match up to the absolute skills of Claressa Shields? Loads of questions that we're going to have answered on the night. I reckon we'll get a back and forth. You know, I don't think it's going to be plain sailing for either of the fighters. Probably another couple of twists or turns before we get to Saturday night. We've got the weigh-in, we've got the press conference. We'll see, you know, who's where by the time they're lacing out their gloves on Saturday.
It's Wednesday, a few days away from the final. Can I pull a prediction out of you now?
Do you know what? I would love to be able to make one, but I'm really struggling. I would go with what the bookies are saying, and the bookies are bang on. Yeah, they're bang in the middle. 50-50 fight. If it goes the distance, they're going Claressa. If it ends short, they're going Savannah. So I'm going to go with that. It's not an absolute position, but I'm predicting one of those two things.
So you're sitting on the fence, really, Dan?
It's kind of sitting on the fence, yeah? That's what I'm supposed to do. But do you know what? In reality, it's a great fight, man. I think it's a testament to Boxer and to Sky, you know, to be able to put this on. It's a brave move. It's a bold move at the O2 you know, one of the biggest arenas in the country, to put on an entirely women's boxing card is a huge statement, huge.
Talk to me about boxers' intent then with female boxing. We've seen them go out and sign the biggest and the best amateurs, and that's just not your Olympics at Caris, at Lauren and Caroline. You've got the likes of Shannon Ryan, who's with 258, Ebony Jones, who's on the card. They've got the who's who now, along with the top of the table, which is obviously Claressa Shields and Savannah Marshall, all being showcased. But away from this fight night, which is just going to boost the Sky roster and female boxing all in all, long term, is boxers' vision to carry on growing the sport?
Of course, it has to be. You know, it's a relatively young sport. In terms of women's boxing, it's only been around for not much longer than a decade, especially in the Olympics. It was only 2012 where it got introduced, so it's a young sport. And what we're beginning to see now is this generation inspire the next generation, you know, and you see more and more coming through. It's like a conveyor belt. So yeah, obviously the job, the thing that we want to do is grow women's boxing. We've invested heavily into women's boxing. We've got a huge we've probably got the biggest women's stable in boxing, you know. We've got loads of them. So, you know, when you look down the card, you see Shannon Ryan, you see April Hunter, you see Georgia O'Connor, Lauren Price, Artin Stool. Like, there's so many names, and they're getting to showcase their talents on the biggest platform, if you ask me, in the biggest arenas. You know, when you look at where it was a few years ago compared to where it is now, and you just look at that trajectory, who knows where it can go, you know. With a few more rivalries, this one is a given. You know, this is a 10-year one in the making, and you look underneath that and you've got Mayer and Baumgardner. Another great fight, a 50-50 fight with Needle in it as well. The more rivalries we get in women's boxing, the better. I feel that's what people buy into.
Let's move on to the male side of the sport then. The story that's been dominating the headlines for the past 24 to 48 hours is Fury Joshua again. I see lots of the media kind of saying, here we go, another week of everyone talking about AJ Fury. It's going on again. What did you make of, first of all, when Tyson put out the comments saying, look, November, let's get it on?
Well, I know he wants to do it in November. Usyk said he can't fight this year. He'd have to wait until 2023. So he's put the offer out. I think the WBC have allowed him to make a voluntary defence. Who better than AJ, you know? So far, it's going almost too smooth. So smooth that I'm a little bit sceptical, if I'm totally honest, because, you know, they've said 60-40. Eddie's reported that, you know, we accept the 60-40. So it looks like at the moment there's no real stumbling blocks. Obviously there will be. We always know what people have tried to make this fight before. Of course there are stumbling blocks. And I'm not sure what it looks like in terms of broadcasters or money or location or whatever it is. It's nothing to do with us, essentially, at Boxer. But it's a great fight. It is a great fight, you know. It's a fight that people would want to watch.
But if you're AJ, you've just come off the back of 2 defeats, and I know he wants a world title fight, but is Fury the right step for him moving forward? Well,
sometimes you never know when your stars are going to align, or when your star's going to be in ascendancy or descendancy or whatever it is. Sometimes it's hard to plan boxing. You know, you try and plan it, and by the time you're ready to go for your world titles again, they're all scattered all over the world. This is a chance at a big fight, a huge fight, a legacy fight, a fight he's wanted for ages, and a world title after 2 losses. You know, these opportunities aren't there every day. I'm sure it would do big numbers and big money. Sometimes you've got to take opportunities when it presents itself, and AJ's his own boss. You know, like, if he wants to fight, he'll take the fight. If he don't fancy it and he thinks actually it could be, you know, too risky at this stage of my career, or maybe it won't make sense now and make sense after I've had 1 or 2 fights, who knows? But he'll make that decision. Him and 258, they'll make that decision. And so far, all the reports say that they want that fight.
So you said you're a bit sceptical, but if I had to ask you now, will that fight happen this year? What would you say? I know you got your inside people. Do you think this fight will happen in 2022?
If you're asking me, gun to my head, I would say no, because everything's going too smooth and I'm a skeptic, and I just think there's going to be a road bump, a disagreement somewhere that isn't. It's only around the corner, November as well. Like, it depends. I think if they both really want it and there's no you know, egos that get involved and they're able to work out broadcasters and everything else, I think they'll do it. But I think if there's anything that is, you know, that is there that can stop the fight, I think it will stop the fight.
Okay, and boxers' big heavyweight showdown, rearranged, Hughie Fury versus Michael Hunter, is coming up very soon, moved venue, but it's still an anticipated fight that puts someone in prime positions to fight the winner of this, whether that's Usyk, whether Fury comes out. What do you think going into this fight? How big is this for the heavyweight division, Fury Hunter?
I think it's big. You know, it's not the absolute top of the division. It's that little section just underneath it, but it catapults them into the fight. The winner of that fight moves on into potentially world title challenges. You know, because we don't know the heavyweight division right now. The picture changes so quickly. You know. All it takes is for somebody to vacate or somebody to retire or somebody to do, and all of a sudden there's opportunities that arise for the likes of Michael Hunter and for Hughie Fury. I think that's a better fight than people are giving it credit for at the moment as well. I think that's a very good fight. I think it will be a very good fight on the night as well. And the winner, you know, with a little bit of luck, is right in the mix for a world title shot.
So it's like you've got that fight, you've got Joyce Parker, you had Ortiz versus Ruiz at the weekend. Is it kind of, those fights are like the best of the rest at the minute?
Yeah, and you know, I really enjoyed Ortiz and Ruiz. I thought that was a great fight. I thought Ruiz looked very good. But, you know, there's so many fights out there for everyone. You know, at the moment, let's be honest, there's one man at the top of the tree, which is Tyson Fury. And you'd put Usyk up there with him, and there's the two unbeaten fighters. Everyone else, we are now in that point where we just want to see entertaining fights, and that includes Dillian White. You know, that includes Ruiz, that includes Ortiz. I'm not sure how much he's got left in the tank, but it definitely involves Joshua. It definitely involves Hunter. You know, whoever wins and puts himself in a position for a big fight. The way that things are at the moment, especially how we at Boxer, we're trying to work with everyone that we have to work with in order to make the big fights. We don't want the fighters losing out. We certainly don't want the fans losing out. So we're willing to make these fights. You know, it's proofs in the pudding. You know, Joseph Parker, Joe Joyce on a Queensbury promotion, on a Queensbury pay-per-view. We you know, came to agreement, delivered it. You know, and I think it shows our intent.
Finally, Dan, it's the first full calendar year for the Boxer Sky Sports link-up. We're moving into the final quarter of that year. For the boxing fan, it's not been fully announced, the schedule, but what can we expect?
Well, we've got something coming October 15th. We've got October 29th, and then we've got some big ones that I'm not sure if I can leak just yet, but we've got a couple of big ones that you might be shocked to hear. But we've got a busy calendar, you know. Look, throughout it, this has been our first year, always the most difficult year. We started with absolutely nothing. And along the way, we've had to pick up a lot of fighters. You know, it's only a few weeks ago we even signed Liam Smith. You know, we've signed the Olympians. During the season, we've been building our stable. Now we have that stable. They need to be active. You know, a lot of these boys and the women are starting from either zero or at least, you know, 2 or 3 fights. We have to build everyone. Everyone has to be busy. So rest assured, there's going to be a lot of bills up and down the country, even abroad. And it will be, you know, the best that we can deliver. I'm a boxing fan. Before I'm anything, I'm a boxing fan. I hate bad cards and bad fights. You know, and at Boxer, we want to be able to deliver the best fights wherever we can.
Dan, thanks very much. Speak to IFL. I want to speak to you again soon.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, I put my dad in the street against a heavyweight.
I've gone back to the dad. I've punched him a few more
There's 5
times.
blokes outside my front door. You coming in?
One hell of a fucking story, so stay tuned.